Welcome to this live edition of Rep Talk. Here is your host and author, Shane, better known to many as simply the Black Swan.
All right. Welcome to the show. How's everyone doing tonight?
Thank you.
Great.
Good.
Welcome,
Good.
Patrick. Welcome, Bob, to the show. Appreciate you guys being on here. Lots of stuff to talk about tonight. Let's just start by going around the table here and just seeing how your week's been. And where were you when you first heard about the news last night? So, Patrick, maybe we'll just start with you.
Sure. So the week is going good. And then obviously, no pun intended, the bomb dropped or whatever, and the bombs dropped. And where was I? Probably just watching TV, and I always scroll through Getter or X or Twitter, and it just popped up there, and that's where I heard about it. I mean, we kind of knew this was going to happen. It was what do they call that? A beautiful misdirection.
Yes.
And I think that misdirections happen all the time, and it's kind of like their MO is misdirections, right? Kind of thing to but I mean the whole how it went down was unbelievable. Like, I was kind of watching, I was like, hey, how come these B2s are going in this direction? That's weird. And actually they were coming, like they were showing them on the radar or whatever going west. I was like, well, west, that's not wrong direction. And it was done well. I mean, was it a good thing? That's debatable. But the whole, how it went down was brilliant. And we'll see what happens in a couple days, if it actually worked or not, or what's going to happen. So, but I'm not super worried about it. I mean, I saw some good pictures of, like, it just looks like they're just like 6 holes in the ground kind of thing. And like, it doesn't even look like anything really happened except for 6 holes in the ground. So, but yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I'm just here to listen a little bit too, because I know you guys are more biblical scholars than me. I'll tell you that much right now. But I mean, all I know is a little bit of Ezekiel, I think 37, 38, a few places in Matthew, stuff like that. So you guys are the masters. So, but yeah, it was an okay week.
I'm pointing everyone. If you have any tough questions, make sure and point them to Patrick, please. Bob, how's your world going? And where were you when you first heard the news about last night?
Where was I? I was actually just spending time with my family, my wife, and just enjoying some TV time, having dinner. And then that's when it came through, and I told everybody, hey, everybody, gather around. Here we go. You know how Israel took out all the installations on the top? Now they took out all the installation. Well, the United States stepped in. It took out all the installations on the bottom. So with that being said, no need to worry right now. All right. Evidently, according to Donald Trump, I have watched his thing online. He said it was a great mission. The jets are heading home. I'm proud of everybody, strong, and all stuff like that. And the way he said all that, man, he said that to tick them off, man. So we know, and this is the narrative. We know that, okay, all of us watching that, okay, what does this mean for us? 2 things. 1, rapture resurrections are a back door or front door. Okay. So that's on the doorstep for us. 2, what are we going to deal with now up until the rapture resurrection? And the most that we're going to deal with outside of a nuclear war, which I believe we might deal with, are some terror cells. And let me say something about these terror cells. Okay, these terror cells, they're all backed, they're all supported, and they're all organized by our own government. Okay, these are black flag events. They know where they're all at. They brought them all in here for a reason under Biden. Okay, they brought them all in here for this time. All right. And now they're finally going to activate. I thought they're going to activate them like 6-7 years ago. I know they're here already. They have their no-go zones, stuff like that. And I was waiting for them to activate them back then. I was telling people about them, okay, but never got activated. And it kept going and going. So what are they doing? Just bringing everybody in here and giving them free hotel stays. And then finally, this happened. I was like, okay, it makes sense. What they're going to do now is activate them. It was brilliant. The reason why they're activating them it's brilliant time to do it because they had Trump in. We got to whip how good things can get for us. Okay. And then they took Trump out. They put that diaper boy in. And that Biden administration took everything in a 180 different direction. And it picked everybody up off, took everybody off, woke everybody up. And then they brought Trump back. Okay. So what happened? You set up the perfect powder keg in this country for a civil war, American patriots versus the illegal immigrants, everybody they brought in here, because now everybody's ticked off because of what Biden did, and everybody's hopeful what Trump's going to fix now that Biden messed up. All right, and we know that the main problem is all the illegal immigrants they brought in, and what they've been doing, man, they've been charging us up with all these protests and all this stuff like that, and now they're like, okay, I think the American citizens are ready to go, Josh. So we need to get the Palestinians and all their illegal immigrants upset. So why don't we go ahead and bomb Israel, take out their nuclear installation, not Israel, go bomb Iran. Bomb it, take out their nuclear installations completely. That way it'll set all them up. Now they're all motivated, and now we can get this whole party started. Okay. So I think my last thing I'll say before I hand this off to Josh is this. In order to do that, they have to shut off all the lights. Once they shut off all the lights, I think that's when you people are worried about terror cells. I think you might get a few here and there, but you're not going to see the wrath of that until after they shut off all the lights. And I don't think the lights are going to be shut off till after we leave in the rapture. So
Russ Dizdar Black Awakening.
Yep.
That's the Red Rider. That's the Red Rider, you know.
So I heard about the bombing from Josh. So Josh, I was talking to you when you mentioned that. So how did you find out again?
I've been you know, like everybody has their own little sources where they get an acceleration of information. Just one of those random places, you know, and but I was sitting here and I was talking with Shane last night, and he was talking to me about my documentary, and it really meant a lot to me, his encouragement and stuff. And I was like, oh man, dude, like, Iran supposedly just got bombed, you know, on I think it was Donald Trump that shared it first before anybody else. But I was real slow to want to report on it, you know, because it's like I want to see what happens here. And it's always like I'm really cautious when these things happen, because something I've noticed when things are taking place in the Middle East, there's a lot of older videos that are used and made to look like as if they're newer, you know, events that are taking place. And anybody that's trying to spread disinformation can say, hey, look, you know, this person just bombed this person, you know. And actually, I was a victim of that. I would say a victim, probably not a victim, but you know, I believed a source that was saying, hey, Israel's being attacked right now. I went live about it, and people are like, oh, fake news, fake news, fake news. I'm like, wait, what? And I went and looked up. It wasn't actually happening. And so, you know, and even with Iran, they've said, oh, you know, in 3 days, we're going to hit Israel. And it was like 3 or 4 weeks later that they actually hit Israel. So I'm always slow to want to report on something and come out with information about it that I would want to put in Times Talk behind or this ministry. But as I'm watching, you know, the IAEA come out and said that there are no reports of radiation in the area, which is strange. Okay. Satellite imagery, like Patrick was talking about, looks like just some random little bit of this and that, nothing like bunker busters or anything like that where they would detonate. And here's the thing. I want to, in my head, believe that Ezekiel 38 and 39 is tightly connected to the use of nuclear weapons, because that 7-year period that's talked about. And so I think there will be nuclear fallout even after, you know, God is the one that destroys the armies of Israel, you know, like all these armies gather. So there's going to have to be a nuclear power there. So I'm not so sure they destroyed things the way that they said they did. I think they hit some stuff, but there's even news, and I can even get the video presenting here, that Iran's literally showing where they hit, and it's just a small pillar of smoke. It wasn't very big, and they're telling their public like there's no radiation or nothing, and nobody's dying, dropping dead, getting sick. There's no videos going out of people that are, their skin's melting off their flesh because of nuclear radiation or fallout. These things would be happening to somebody somewhere if this actually took place. And so I'm a little cautious on both sides of the coin. Like, okay, is this or is this not? I can show a clip, however, and if you don't mind, I think it's rather important if we're going to cover things thoroughly here today to look at both sides of the coin. And I'll share this document or this video with you here. Hold on one second. I think this is the right video. Hold on. Let me make sure. 1 second. Hold on. I'm sorry. I really am sorry.
Yeah, no worries. We'll hold off on that for a sec while you cue that up. One thing that I want to interject and put this as a little bit of a seed in the back of your mind. 666, Revelation 13. We're familiar with it when it comes to the Antichrist, the idea of the mark of the beast and all this, but we're not really fully sure how that all is going to play out. And we get hints of it also in the book of Daniel, talking about basically the son of perdition, all this kind of stuff. But when you think about it with regards to people saying things to the Antichrist, like who can wage war? And again, Josh and I are pretty cautious about the idea of saying Donald Trump is the Antichrist. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's the Antichrist. However, when you look at the United States of America, there are some things coming down the pipes that are related to the number 6 in 3 schisms, if you will. And that is, if you look into the war chest of the United States, they are actually, forget who the Secretary of the War is. I forget what his name is. What's his name? Pete.
Pete.
Yeah, Pete. Good old Pete. He talks about they were going to invest heavily in B-21 Raiders. That's supposed to come out in the next couple of years. Some people say 2030. Some people say 2026, 2027. They use B-2s for this raid, but the B-21 Raider is actually a 6th generation stealth bomber, unmanned. It could potentially be unmanned. Also, you also have the next generation of air dominance is the 6th generation fighter jet. And you also have what they call is the loyal wingman, which is AI powered drone swarm jets. So again, this is 6th generation AI drones. So when you put those all together, you have these 6th generation bombers, you have the 6th generation fighter jets, and 6th generation AI wingman. Basically, it's a cluster of AI drones that fly with the 6th generation fighter jets so that they can disrupt anybody's radar or whatever. If somebody's coming at the jet from the side, they have a cluster of drones following these fighter jets and they can actually keep up with them. So this, to me, like 666, whoever that is, they're going to be, if it's not America, if it's America handing over this type of technology to another country, somebody's going to get so powerful when it comes to war that you're going to have people around the world saying, who can wage war against this beast, against this person? That's starting to line up with end times. So that's all I wanted to interject there. Just hang on to that, because that's coming down the pipes.
Here's one for you to hang on to, so because I want to play too. Okay.
Right.
The 2020 election, Biden won. I got my fingers crossed here. Biden won. Okay. How many people out of the electorate voted? 66.6%.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
There,
Wow.
I'm playing.
Can't make that up.
Just
All
a
right,
fun little kind of thing that I kind of like looking at.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like there's lots of crazy stuff with that. Okay, Josh, what do you trying to get me banned here? What do you got for me here? Let me add this.
You go too far, would have never happened with me. I had Iran in check. Do you know, we hit them very hard for something that they did, and they had to hit back. They feel they have to do that, and I understand that. Do you know they called me to tell me we're going to hit a certain location, but we're not going to hit it. It's going to be outside of the perimeters.
Who called you?
Iran called me. Iran called for me. And they let us know, and we had 16 missiles went off. I believe it was 16. 6 or 7 failed in the air.
When was this?
This was prior to the attack on a fort that we had where they hit back. Do you remember when they sent 18 missiles or 16 missiles? 5 failed. They let us know, don't move. We're going to have to hit you back. Psychologically, we have to do that because we hit them on something. You remember. They sent 16 or 18 missiles, and we knew they weren't going to hit inside the fort. And the media was going, and now I reveal it, the media was going wild because they say it's strange. They're very accurate missiles. How come they all missed? Nobody was killed, if you remember.
Yes,
with all of those missiles, nobody was killed. Now, they had to do it because they have people and they have to show strength. So they aimed the missiles, but they said, please don't attack us. We're not going to hit you. That was respect. We had respect.
Wow.
And I'll be honest with you, that to me can be, the favor can be returned. Okay? And Trump has to please Israel. Okay? Trump has to please Israel. But there's still other things that have to take place, I think. But here's the thing. The radical Islamists, regardless of whether it did or didn't, I don't think is really the big issue. All right? Regardless of whether it did or didn't, they're going to take this opportune time, especially during this July 4th season. And I don't mind. I don't know if you want me to bring up this Wargaming document I have, Shane, but it actually is entailing that there is a bioterrorist attack war game to happen on July 4th. I have the document. I can show you where they say even before July 4th, they're going to release a bioterrorism agent that's going to cause over 280 people to die in one day, 280,000 people to die in one day, 400,000 get sick. That's one day. That's not counting the animals that get sick too. And so they're going to use this to do the next lockdown. I think if it is something that takes place. And I think that the No Kings 2.0 would be the perfect cover for this. I told people that No Kings, the first one, I said, it's not going to be this one. It's too obvious. You know what I'm saying? And then they wait and they do crazy stuff like this right before July 4th. It's right around the corner. Distract everybody. Get them off of that July 4th bioterrorism scenario. Get them away from that. Make them focus on this. Iran gets their back scratched. Israel gets their back scratched. Trump gets his back scratched. And then bada bing, bada boom, they set us up for depopulation or any kind of radical things. I can even show you just today. There was a shooting in Detroit, Michigan that is near Dearborn Heights. I do believe that the church was near Dearborn Heights, which is a Muslim epicenter in America. I could show you the shooting. There's nobody that gets shot except for the security guard. But I think people need to see stuff like this because the reaction was slow. It's like these people didn't believe it could happen to them. You know what I mean? And the security guard of the church, which all of you people who churchgoers get security cat up, get trained, start packing heat. All right, because it's the real deal now. Like, and this sets up everybody who's willing to go meet out in person. All right, for attack. And so we already had one today in Detroit. You know, right as this supposed attack happened after Trump and all this stuff. Regardless of whether it did or whether it didn't, get that off the plate. All right. And it's terrible if it did. It's prophecy beginning to be fulfilled right before our very eyes. But I mean, regardless of whether us on the home front in Canada, in America, in Europe, in Australia, you have a giant target painted on your backs right now. You're wide in the open.
Sure.
I have video of CIA analysts agreeing with me where I've been trying to warn people that an October 7th style event is coming to America. And even the CIA analyst is coming out and saying, yeah, I mean, this whole thing, well, that October 7th was a dress rehearsal for what is going to happen in America. And that's going to be this formidable social cataclysm.
Here's an interesting book that I'm reading this weekend, The Art of War. And if you read this is almost like a playbook of what Trump was using to get people to, like he was saying a couple of days ago, it's like, we'll talk about this in 2 weeks, 2 weeks time, down the road. And I know we were talking about it on the various channels that, hey, something's up. Like Iran's going to get attacked or something like this, but you never really think it's going to happen until it happens. And then you're like, well, those people, they actually did it. They actually went. America actually attacked Iran. So now that's right out of the art of war. Make them distracted, make them think that you're weak, make them think that you're strong, and then you play off that you're weak or whatever it is. If you're too far away, you make them feel like you're close by. If you're close by, you make them think that you're having problems. And Trump and the Prime Minister of Israel were kind of having a little bit of a hissy fight a couple of weeks ago. And we're like, oh, they don't like each other and all that. And I think that was just a ruse for us.
It was absolutely, because they're totally locked up with each other. And I talked about that last week when they were like, yeah, arguing back and forth, and all of a sudden on the 61st day, boom, nailed them. Right. So they're throwing. I think exactly that's what they're doing right now. What they're doing in that book, and that makes good sense. I mean, that's brilliant. You know. So now here we are. Now is like, what's next for us? Now think about what you just said there, Shane. And now they're putting out there something about, like Josh is saying, okay, heads up July 4th, heads up July 4th. Look, I've heard a lot of that stuff for years. I've been waiting for a July 4th 9/11 event for years.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to wait till July 4th. I think they're going to turn that book on us. We're going to be sitting there waiting. We're just like we're waiting on the 14th. Okay. And the 14th, man, that was I already gave my opinion about the 14th, but what they did there on the 14th was for them to essentially geofence the country. And that's why they did those a lot of those protests to take place.
Can you explain that theory?
Like, hey, we know that guy that threw that brick at that car. We know where you live. And
you're
everything.
Talking about when they had the riots, that they were actually studying everyone as well.
Yeah, so they geofenced all the cities. Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that theory a little bit?
Well, geofencing, you know what geofencing is? Basically, it's electronic. You walk into a football field, okay, and a football stadium. What happens is your phone gets inundated with ads. They're geofenced within the football stadium, and they start tracking you. And what you're doing is saying, hey, go to the gift shop. You want a hat? You're talking about hats. You know, but you're geofencing it. Once you get out of there, you're not getting hit with that stuff no more. Okay. Well, that's where it was first applied. But now this is military grade. So now they're taking it and using it over entire cities. And these people are stupid. They show up with their phones. So what they do is when these people come in and they're all gathering those streets and everything, they did use AI. And satellites, and they said, okay, who is here in the streets? And they made a list of 3 or 4 or 5 million people. And they knew right away, okay, here's all the troublemakers right here. And they confirmed because they stay within the geofencing, because they're within the street. They're staying within the zone and doing stuff. And some are doing worse than others, but they identified all the troublemakers. They're all on the list. Now, if anybody does anything, we'll go arrest them. But for the most part, nobody did anything. So I think what they did was they allowed this to take place, or even set it up themselves, okay, with their leadership and stuff like that, so they can blanket the whole country and test it all at once. And they tested all. They did the whole country, because eventually, after the rapture and when they implement the mark of the beast and all stuff like that, and geo-tracking before that, they want to be able to track everybody in the country. And what better day to do it than to say, hey, everybody get out there and protest on this one day. You know, if you guys hate Trump so much, why you just do it all in one day? Shouldn't you guys be out there for 7, 8, 10, 12 days straight at a time? Take a break for a few days, come back. Shouldn't that be what you should be doing? No, they just had to come out for one day. That was it. It doesn't make sense.
Sounds like a way is to get them to come to them to get pinged, and then they go back out. They can as they take their phones here and take them back out, then they can track those phones where they're going. Yeah, I mean, that's ingenious, Bob. That's ingenious, dude.
It was a good idea. It was a good idea to do that, so that way they can eliminate the troublemaker. A lot of those troublemakers, they're going to go back. It's like setting up you don't get rid of ants. You don't go and burn the whole ant pile. What you do, you set up a trap with the ants. The ant goes through this little liquid, and it takes it back to the hive and kills the rest of the ants. So essentially what they did was these people, you know all the bad people that we want to get rid of, they went there and they marked themselves and then they went back to their hives or their nests where the rest of them are at. And that's all. Now we know where everybody's at. Now we know where every single terrorist cell is at. Now,
who's doing the geo fencing? Who's in charge of that? Do you know?
Private contractors.
Starlink, for the most part. I forgot the name of the company that's also working with Starlink.
Okay, so they're gathering that. There's someone that has to be gathering that information. Who's that? There's got to be an agency that gathers that information.
I can't remember the name of the agency.
It's the fusion centers. It's the fusion centers. I promise you.
It's not the police, though, right?
No, it's the fusion centers. So it goes like
government.
Like you got your local law enforcement, right?
Yeah.
Then you have your FBI, your Department of Homeland Security, your CIA. Okay. And then right in between that is your fusion centers, and what they are, they're private contracted, so that way they can skirt around the laws of privacy, and they can listen into your phone calls. They can track you where you're going. This thing right here, it has sensors on it like you would not begin to believe.
So the fusion centers are kind of the guys, or
all of that data is collected, and all that data is collected and processed at a fusion center, and AI is at the helm of the fusion centers now. And now the fusion centers are becoming so big because it's controlling so many people that they have to figure out how to cool these things. They have to have their own power sources, like they're talking about installing nuclear power plants at these places that are to power these fusion centers. All right. And like I said, they're building AI, they're using quantum computing and all that stuff. And I'm telling you, whether people want to believe me or not, 6G is fully active now, not being sold to you or your friends. And 7G is in the process, 30 test phasing it. All this stuff where people are having this and all that stuff. Okay, I'm telling you right now, folks, it's the same thing when they did the 5, and now they're doing the 6. All right, and they're working on the 7. There's going to be another wave of death out. I got to be careful. But anyway, I'm going too far. I'm going too far here.
So the fusion centers can be used for good purposes or for nefarious. So it all depends on who's on top or the leader of that, or
there's no oversight.
There's actually there's a company that's been working with Starlink, and I can't remember the name of the company that they're the private company that's worked with the government right now, where they are essentially in charge of making the satellites. And they are working with Starlink, setting up classified payloads with all the Starlink satellites. I can't remember the name of the company right now, but they're working with the government and Musk, and they set up. They every time there's a Starlink launch of satellites, there's a classified payload from these guys that's sent up with it, and is actually working with them to surveil everybody here. And so basically, they're able to geofence, like I was saying. And they will be able to use it to track and trace everybody. That's why they're not. And another thing about these terror cells too is that a lot of that stuff is propaganda too, right? That I've been waiting for these terror cells for years. They've been saying this stuff. Okay, so a lot of propaganda mixed in there as well. All right, but if you're afraid that someone's going to show up at your house, that's not going to be the case. I think it's just going to be a bunch of mindless idiots in cities. We already seen it already. We've seen the Chaz. Okay. In Portland back in 2020, right? It'll be stuff like that. No suicide bomber is going to walk down the middle of a private, in like a residential area, quiet area, blow himself up on the intersection. It's not going to happen. It's going to be at large events. So just be careful going to large events this summer.
Yeah, it's something that I'm going to have to disagree on. I think that there's a lot of hidden groups that aren't being talked about. Do you know what a satanic accelerationist is? Are you familiar with the term?
Sounds pretty self-explanatory.
Accelerate Satanism.
Okay, so a satanic accelerationist isn't there to accelerate Satanism, even though they do. The satanic accelerationist, which is like a FBI term, this is known in the Department of Homeland Security. They're going after these groups. Dan Bongino just posted about them yesterday. The 764, the Order of the 9 Angles, the Maniac Murder Club, all these different groups that are grooming kids online to go out and do these shootings. They absolutely have things on people where they're blackmailing people to do these things.
Oh, I see. That's right.
And
blackmail.
And there is so many terrorist groups right now. Yeah. It's unreal, but it's a lot of online stuff. But there's people that are pushed to the point of doing something in public. You know what I mean? And I'm going to be intense here for a moment. There's a lot of people that will get mad at me for saying these things, but so if you don't want to hear it, shut it off for a moment. You know what I mean? Then come back in 5 minutes. But what they do to these kids is they meet up with them in Minecraft, Roblox, all that stuff. There's back doors in these video games created for these predators to come in and start to groom children. It starts off with the indecent photo. All right, they'll talk them into that, and then it continues to more indecency. Then it turns into cutting. Then it turns into self-mutilation. Then it turns into animal abuse. Then animal sacrifice. Then it turns into going after humans. There is one of these groups literally has a thing called the murder point system. All right. And what they're doing is you can't be a part of their group unless you're getting murder points, poisoning a water supply, going to the grocery store, spraying things on it that's going to get people sick and cause them cancer and die. If you're doing those things, you gain points and you can be a part of this group. And these kids, they see it as like a video game, like a real life video game that they're part of. And there's a reward system, and they're all neo-Nazi Satanists. All right. And they're coming out of the Ukraine. All right. I was talking to Shane about this. They're coming out of America. Like I said, the 764, the Order of the Nine Angles, the Maniac Murder Club is, Maniac Murder Cult is out of Ukraine, and it has tightly knit to the Azov Battalion. All right. And these people, it's all part of Project Monarch. All right. And it's a modern version of Project Monarch where they're going in this and messing with kids and breaking them down. And on top of it, the kids have to film these things happening. And I'm telling you, just a little bit of a searching, and you'll find some stuff you wish you wouldn't have searched for. Yeah. It's that bad right now. There are people getting slaughtered in other countries by these groups already in the public eye.
Yeah. You know what's interesting too is this isn't just children as well. This is also celebrities, like actors, people, politicians, all this kind of stuff. They're all being set up. I say all. A lot of people are wanting to have this power to be able to have money, fame, all this stuff. They get it, but at a price of, it's almost like signing here. We gotta have some dirt on you, and then you get the fame, and then afterwards they turn on them because they don't do what they say. Like some of these celebrities are now coming out saying, yeah, I was harassed by people. People wanted me to sign contracts to do these big movie deals, but they wanted me to do something else on the side. And they said no. And then all of a sudden their career goes down the tubes all of a sudden. And we know that is happening in the political world as well. And one of the things that there's a Netflix special that my daughter recommended, and I watched it. It was a train wreck of Astroworld. Have you guys seen that? Great documentary. Basically, it's involving a Travis Scott concert where they booked a venue that holds about 15 to 30,000 people, depending who you talk to, and they jammed it full of 50,000 people, and then people were getting squashed alive because it was so crowded. People were suffocating. Yeah. So what people are saying now, people that are kind of watching this kind of thing from a different perspective, are saying this was very close, if not an exact satanic ritual to allow people, young people, to basically get harvested by people like Travis Scott and all these celebrities that want to move up the rankings. They had a whole portal and all this kind of stuff. And people were actually saying during the suffocation as well that they felt like their souls were actually being extracted from them. And I think 10 people died. Over 300 people were squished, but we know that there were more people that actually died than what they're telling us. And Travis Scott did not stop it at all. And he can hear people crying out saying, please stop the concert. People are dying. And in fact, he went on a podium and it actually got raised above, and the area in front of him was called the cross. And he was being raised up as people were dying in front of him, singing a song, The Escape Plan, which is, like I'm telling you, you can't make this stuff up. You don't even have to go digging. It's right there, blatant in front of us. And I think as we get closer to, like you said, like July 4th and stuff, I just watched a few weeks back Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. One of the things, and we had talked about this with the government in that movie, said if we're going to stop this entity or whatever, we're going to have to sacrifice one of our cities, and I think it was Chicago or something like that, to show that we're actually basically, I forget what they call that, but almost like here's a tribute to say that, hey, we're sacrificing one of our own. And I can see something like a bombing in Iran, that Iran's like calling Trump and saying, look, you got to give us something now. Otherwise, we'll take it into our own hands. And Trump's like, what do you want? I don't know. I want a small city. I want Chicago to be kind of on its knees or whatever. I want them to feel the wrath of Iran or whatever. It's like, okay, that's your city. I don't know, but that's the kind of idea that they were pumping out in the movie, that if a country does something and we want to stop something, we got to sacrifice one of our own cities in order to make it look good for the other country. So
Yeah, I can
there's
see
a
that.
lot of stuff, like it's not so fiction-y after a while. And you're right. I think something in the summer is going to happen. I don't know what it is. Last year in July was Donald Trump, an assassination attempt. It's when our guard goes down that all of a sudden we go, oh, okay, Iran is now taken care of. Their nuclear facilities are done. It was a beautiful sweep. We bombed 6 places. We're done. Peace and safety, whatever. And then something happens in America that catches. This is black swan soil right now we're entering into.
Oh yeah, it makes sense. It does. It's not too far fetched to think that though, because look, they left our borders open for 4 years. Okay, and I think they're both on the same team. All right, so they deliberately tried to have us overrun by illegal immigrants, and then armed them, essentially gave them everything they could to make sure they're taken care of, putting them up in the hotels and food cards and everything. They want to make sure they get taken care of, try to immediately give them gun rights when they're trying to take our gun rights away. That shouldn't be that should raise some flags. They're trying to give them gun rights. They need to have guns right away. Boy, the Democrats are fighting like crazy for the illegals to get guns. But at the same time, but you guys can't have guns. So yeah, so I think they're trying to set us up. I don't trust this government, anybody in this government anymore. Period. Nobody. The only person I trust is Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. That's it. I don't trust Trump. I don't trust any of these guys. I think they're on the same team. Guys. And I think that going back to those Deagle reports, okay, hey, we're only this is June going into July. That gives us about 6 months for them to wipe us all out. So if what Josh is saying is true, the birth pains are about to get a lot harder and a lot quicker. Before it was 60 days when Trump said, hey, 60 days, and then 61st day they went in. And then he's like 2 weeks. All right. And then 60 days went down to 2 weeks. And then it wasn't even 2 weeks. It came out of nowhere in 2 days. Boom. So the frequency of the birth pains are getting much quicker now and much harder. All right. So I don't think it's too far-fetched that what you're saying right there, that they're more than willing to look, they don't want any of us here. They want a slave race of 500 million people. They don't want us all here. Go ahead, Josh.
I did some calculations yesterday, and it was pertaining to the Deagle report, and it come out that like for the Deagle report to be a thing, it's kind of outside the realm of a possibility now, but there's still just like it would span, if it could still be possible if it dumped over into another year. It's not possible within the years that we have now. You know what I mean? But none of their calculations are ever correct, 110%. But we know how much they want to depopulate America. This is their desire. These are their statistics, their numbers, what they want to crunch, what they would like to see happen. All right. And I think that's enough warning for us all to take concern and just be like, hey, have your heads on a swivel. Don't be ignorant to the devil's, devices and how he tries to set traps before believers. You know what I mean? And there was people earlier that were getting mad at me and leaving the live chat because the topic of conversation was extremely difficult. I warned you. You know what I mean? You could take 5 minutes, break away, not listen to what I had to say. But thanks to all of you who are courageous enough and who continue on and push on, even hear the things that me and Shane were just talking about. That's what my whole documentary is about. You know what I mean? That's what the second one that I'm doing right now. And I don't want to talk about that. Me and Shane got a thing going on later on about it, but so I won't even talk about the documentary I did. But I'm saying that I think there's enough concern right now to just be cautious when you go out. That's all I'm saying. I'm not a fear monger. I'm not saying something's going to happen. I'm saying they're wargaming it to happen. Will you click on this document right here? I just want to show something real quick. This ain't
Sure. We'll come to it in one sec. There's a podcaster called Sean Ryan. I don't know if you guys heard of him, like a ex-Marine, ex-Ranger. But when the Trump Hotel had a Tesla Cybertruck in front, remember that on January 1st, that truck exploded? Everybody was investigating it and all this kind of stuff. And there was like, basically the outside of the truck was intact. While that was all going on, there were rumors through ex-Army guys saying that at the border, they were having problems with people sneaking in, or rumors of people trying to get in with these RPG packs that are basically mobile. They can fold them up, hide them, and then be able to take out a building or a plane or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then nothing happened about that. Nobody talked about it. So if, let's just say you had a couple of players from Iran that were in the U.S. in case the United States or in case Israel attacked, it would be smart to me to have people in the U.S. that could just say, you know what? We're going to take out a building or some kind of an event or whatever it is with these RPGs. And the U.S. can't say anything because they already attacked Iran. They would say, yeah, Iran attacked us back, but now we're cracking down. But we're going to need access to all your phones or who knows what it is to protect us. Like this could be the next step of,
there you go.
We'll allow Iran to do something back to us. And then now we got to beef up the security, because when 9/11 happened, that was a perfect Black Swan event. The next day, security went through the roof everywhere.
Yeah. Don't trade your freedom for security. You know what I mean? Because that's what you're going to have to give up.
Okay, so what's the document? What am I reading here? I don't want to read it
Bob,
all
go ahead, Bob.
too long, but
Bob. I can wait till Bob's done.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
That's the whole plan. This whole thing that come in is going to be, they always refer to it as 9/11 on steroids. Yeah. Okay, 9/11 was basically a dry run in one area, but now what they're going to do, whatever they're going to do, if they're going to do it, that's why they're going to do it, and it's going to be controlled by our government. It was that, look, the takedown of this country is a controlled demolition. They allow the enemy to come in here, and they're working with the enemy to take us down. Okay, the one thing the globalists can't stand about us is the fact that we have 120 guns per capita in this country, and that's just the registered weapons. Okay, most of the weapons are not registered, so you're probably looking more like 300 pieces of weapon per person in this country right now. Okay, so that's it's funny. Actually, a Russian general said that about America. It's like, you can't invade America. If you even get past the armies or do anything, you can't go in there and invade, because no matter where you drop troops, everybody's armed. No matter where you drop them, no matter what city, doesn't matter where you go, there are always people that are armed. That's why they try to create these sanctuary cities where nobody has guns. So that way they can create these spots where our enemies can invade into those cities, set up strongholds. I was like, why doesn't anybody have any guns to take these guys out? Oh, because the liberals came in and said, no guns, no guns, no guns. So that way they get them out so they could bring our enemies in, set up strongholds in those cities. But, we'll see how that works out, though. But, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think the National Guard, the military, would be there in 5 seconds. Yeah, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. But hey, about that 500 million, that kind of popped something in my mind. Is you remember the what is it called? The Georgia
Guidestone that blew it up.
They dismantled it, but it got vandalized in 2022. But that had the 500 million on there, and it was kind of like the USA headstones, so to speak.
The headstone, It said to maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature.
I think there's something with languages in there too and stuff. But I didn't
to bring forth a new living language It said it says to guide reproduction wisely. You know, there's like 10 or 15, you know, something between 10 or 15 of them that was in like I think 8 or 9 different languages.
Yeah, it's down now though, right?
There was they took it out. They're erasing what they've been telling us they're going to do for so long because now it's time to implement it, and that's what I'm trying to show you here in this document. How I think they may work towards implementing this. Shane, if you want to share it.
Okay, 1 sec here.
It's the blue one. It's got the blue. Nope, that's the wrong one. The other one.
Unless the military and the guard are in on it, Bob. But I doubt it.
Do you see the one with the blue on top of the red? There it is. All right. So if we flip through this right here, and we get to the scenario,
what are we looking at?
Okay. Hold on. I shouldn't have done that. I should have gone a little bit slower. Hold on. All right, so this is the National Blueprint for Biodefense, immediate action needed to defend against biological threats. Just like we had Event 201 was the war game scenario that produced the 19 and the lockdown that ensued. And we've been talking about how the SPARS pandemic, I can show that document here, but that's for the end of 2025. This is for the middle of 2025, but this is a war gaming scenario that they did that is by the Bipartisan Commission on Biodefense. All right. So if we just go straight to the scenario part, get into the meat and potatoes here. All right. It's on page 9. It says the following hypothetical opening remarks by the chair of a congressional joint inquiry provide context for this report by portraying a biological attack sufficient to cause the catastrophic consequences warned of by the Bipartisan Commission on Biodefense. The scenario describes how a biological agent could target humans and animals, how disease could emerge, some of the key interagency capabilities required to address the agent and its impacts, and the consequences of failure. Joint inquiry into administration and congressional actions before and during the bioterrorist attacks of July 4th, 2025. And on July 4th, they're doing the No Kings 2.0. All right. It says here, U.S. House.
Sorry.
Let
me bring it back. Where'd it go? Sorry about that.
Nope, it's okay. It says the U.S. House of Representatives Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence of the U.S. Select Committee on Intelligence. The chair says, and this is part of the scenario, I call this first hearing of the joint inquiry to order. This is going to get crazy, folks, here in a second. To order 9 weeks ago, some nation or terrorist group, we still do not know who, all right, attacked the nation's capital and other U.S. cities with biological weapons as we celebrated Independence Day. The infectious agent they used killed at least 280,000 Americans and infected at least 400,000 throughout the country in a single day. Can you say Deagle, Bob? All right. In addition to the 200,000 dead and 800,000 sickened animals, these numbers will increase as the disease spreads. Many of our own colleagues and staff here in Congress fell ill and died. All right. Coordinated attacks in allied nations in the days that followed killed tens of thousands more. We are now hearing that the terrorists conducted smaller scale attacks in American cities and localities prior to the July 4th. And I know of a bunch of people who are getting sick all over the place right now still. All right, still it's happening.
So this scenario, this is a mock scenario is what you're reading right now, that they're saying if this would happen, this is what we need to make sure to protect people, to move ambulances around, to make sure hospitals are ready for X amount. That's the document that you're reading, right?
Now here's the thing. Here's the kicker. Denver did a bunch of wargaming scenario stuff at Denver hospitals for bioterror agent being released. Go look it up. All right. This has been wargamed all out. They've already scenarioed it all out, just like Event 201. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm saying there's a window here where things are ripe to happen. Everybody likes to set dates on the rapture. Why can't I set a date for people to be warned and for something to look for? Okay. I got your backs. I care about you. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm saying
it's good.
Be careful and keep your plans according to maybe being a little bit more on the safe side.
So these scenarios very similar to what was that 2.0 called? That happened before COVID. I forget what that was called, but it was basically they were kind of wargaming, and that's the scenario you're saying is different states are starting to wargame this kind of scenario, which isn't totally wrong because it kind of makes sense to put money aside for that to practice. And I've seen that done with schools, they're practicing drills, or they're practicing, you know, all this kind of stuff. What happens if a shooter comes in, whatever it is. So I get that kind of thing, but you're saying that quite possibly this could happen this year.
I'm saying during the 9/11 event that took place in America, they were running a scenario for the same exact thing happening, and it confused the pilots. They use this to cover their stuff, and they'll say if they ever do get caught, they can come back and say, "Oh, we everybody was crisis actors, and we were just wargaming. We're doing a scenario. It wasn't for real or anything like that."
So is that what you're saying? Is that what you're kind of saying, Bob, as well? That they're kind of not, I don't want to say they're playing us like a fiddle, a harp,
they are playing us.
They're playing us to set us up for something.
They are playing us because they know, well, even Albert Pike letters said the same thing, that we're going to exhaust ourselves fighting because of our differences. Okay. And this is actually throughout the tribulation because, and then it says, then they introduce a pure Luciferian doctrine, which will be the mark of the beast. Okay.
Right.
That's what I believe it's going to be. So it takes 3 years into Daniel's 70th week to achieve this. So that's when the mark of the beast is instituted on the planet. All right. So what they're doing here right now with that's interesting. I have to ask you this here, Josh. So for 280,000 people to go down immediately, but it also infects 480,000 the first day. Does this thing continue and just spread? It just infects everybody in the country and it just takes everybody in the country out. Is that what this thing is designed to do?
Yeah, the one thing that came to my mind is that movie Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I can't remember if it was in the beginning or at the end of it, but they showed this little scenario where this red line started to move and the virus started to spread, and then all the chaos that ensued and all that stuff. They are counting on people standing against the next lockdown. They're counting on it. They want that. There's a document that's kind of beside Albert Pike's. It's known as the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, but they try to make the Jews take the fall for a satanic conspiracy. But Adam Weishaupt, the former head of the Illuminati, penned that document himself, and it is all about waking up the angry mob, stirring up the angry mob, and using that to overthrow nations. All right, there's nothing more powerful than getting all the ants angry and them overthrowing the grasshoppers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a formidable force. That's a formidable force. And China said they would have invaded America a long time ago. Would they not find an American under every blade of grass with a gun, Bob?
Yeah.
So basically, we're looking at the fourth seal here with the green horse of pestilence and famine, essentially. Then, but look, something like that. I have, it hasn't happened yet, so we can speculate. But a death on something on a scale that big, that can only happen after the hand of restraint is removed. That's too big. You're going to take out a Christian nation like that? No, you're not. That's not going to happen after the rapture. The Lord will let that happen because all the Christians are dead. Also, I come here to save you. There's nobody left. Can't rapture nobody.
There was a tremendous amount of people that, and it could have been from other means, and then we'll say a 5, and then we'll add a letter to that. That could have taken out tons of people during the first pandemic. You know what I'm saying? There was depopulation that did take place, and I can promise you there were people that thought that it couldn't happen back then, too. And I'm not saying you think that, Bob. I'm just coming from the other angle saying we cannot speak in absolutes about what they're willing or not willing to do. All right? We can just say these are the scenarios they are putting out, right, Bob? They're the ones concocting this up, stirring this up in their little cauldron, and hoping that they can take out as many people as they can as soon as they can. All right. That's honestly, like, the devil doesn't want us to go on the rapture. You know what I'm saying? He wants to take us out before we get to that point. And so I am just trying to give people information so they can make an informed decision for themselves. Pray about it. Seek God on it. You know what I mean? But I'm saying this plays into the Albert Pike letter, a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effects of absolute atheism, the origins of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. And Aleister Crowley, this influential Satanist of the 20th century, he's an evil, wicked man. And he came out and said that the New World Order will not come forward unless the world will be bathed in blood first. And that's their goal. And I'm talking, but you're right, Bob. The big enchilada part of it is the Great Tribulation. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is absolutely something that I believe is going to take place You know, when we see the Red Rider, you know, after the Black Rider rides into the Pale Horse, into the Chloros horse, you know what I'm saying? The pale green horse. And so, you know, but we can't say it's impossible for them to pull another lockdown because they already did one. You know what I mean? And so that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see that happen. I could see them try to pull something like that. Death on that big of a scale, though. We know God's in charge of all this.
Right.
But, you know, going back, though, we go back to what's going on right now with bombing in Israel, bombing in Iran, stuff like that. You know, I know everybody's talking about now. Okay, if this is Ezekiel 38 war, I don't think it's the Ezekiel 38 war. I think this is a geopolitical setup for the landscape for the Ezekiel 38 war to take place. Okay, so we're seeing that happen right now. So that's on the verge right now. And remember, Apostle Paul tells us in 2 Thessalonians chapter 5 that, you know, there must be peace and safety. When they say peace and safety, okay, that's when the rapture takes place, right? So are they saying peace and safety? Well, Iran is no longer a nuclear threat. Okay, now
they're kind of saying strength or peace through strength seems to be the thing that the Americans are saying. Like Trump said it, the other guys are saying it right now, that we're going to use strength to get peace. That's a little bit different, but I think you're right. Like as we get closer to that linchpin, whatever happens, you have to get almost like the whole world to say peace and safety, right?
Well, the whole world was under essentially Iran's thumb. You know, their claim was the whole world won't be safe. And they said it, Trump said it, that we cannot have a safe world with Iran having a nuclear weapon. Right. And not the fact that North Korea has one. That's okay. And Russia,
I know, that's
China,
so
Pakistan have them. And that's okay. The world's not threatened. Only Iran. And now, since they took out Iran's facilities, they have no longer the ability to enrich uranium. Not to mention, but they do have enriched uranium hidden somewhere. But the fact of the matter is, they can no longer pursue it no more. They have to rebuild. So, way I see it, he could say we have peace and safety now, and the whole world can begin chanting that, especially with Israel. Imagine how Israel feels right now.
Yeah,
they feel like they got peace and safety all over the place right now.
Yeah,
I mean, you got the snake dying right now. The snake's going all over the place, but it's about to die. Okay, so yeah, I think we're at the verge of that point where Apostle Paul, when they say peace and safety, then comes sudden destruction, which I believe is the aftermath of the rapture resurrection event. Then everything that comes after that.
Yeah,
you know,
7 years of chaos.
Yep.
That you don't want to be here for.
Nope.
What do you think, Patrick?
I think about lots of things. I wrote down a few questions. Hey, Derek. Wow, haven't seen you.
What's going on?
How's Tennessee?
You see it right behind you. That's all I was doing today.
How's our brother Burchett doing?
How's what?
How's our brother Burchett doing?
You know, we hear from him once in a while. He's a good one. He's a good one. Yeah, he's a good one.
So yeah, I just had a couple of questions. Just kind of at the top. Bob,
gear him for Derek, please.
Yeah, I probably got one from Derek. Anyways, no, Bob, I wanted to ask you a question here. It was interesting what you said. You said that they brought Trump back. And I was kind of wondering, do you think, who is the they, and do you think that the people brought Trump back? The people, the 78 million, I think it was. Who's they? I know I'm not trying to kind of put you in I'm just curious about the they, because you said that they're both kind of the same. The people in Congress or the people in the Senate. They're kind of the same people. Who's they?
In regards to having Trump back in because he was out, and then Biden came in, and everybody's debating whether or not that was legit. All that.
Bob said they brought Trump back in, and I was like, "Who's they?" What did you mean?
Oh,
the
okay,
people,
you're right.
or was it someone?
They
someone
essentially is a
nefarious?
globalist conglomerate of globalists, the billionaires and the shadow government. They essentially the people that essentially let you know, hey, you either vote for this guy or this guy because they both work for us, so either one will be fine. There's no real there aren't any real elections out there for us anymore. So basically, when they brought them back, I'm talking about globalists. People
Well,
pretty
we're
much
not
hiding
all
in the
in.
shadows, secret society, skull and bones, Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, even fallen angels for the most part. Basically Satan's board of directors that currently run this planet right now.
Yeah.
13 families.
The people put an X on their ballot. Are they being controlled by Satan, or is it, or like,
if you think about big picture, and I know where you're going with it, Patrick. If you think big picture, this whole planet right now is kind of run by principalities, powers, rulers of the air, and they're trying to do things that are probably contrary to what God wants done as well. Like, there are some bad actors, bad players out there that we don't know. We don't always see what's going on underneath, and the governments are moving positions. This person's going here, this person's going there. And then all of a sudden you get all these ads, and people can be manipulated to vote for people. It's strange, but they can do it. They could be on their way. I'm like, yes, I'm voting for this person at the end of the week. And you get a couple of nice commercials about this other guy that makes you question. All of a sudden, you get a few friends or whatever, that mob mentality, you get people talking. All of a sudden, they're like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to vote in this direction. I was going to go over here, but now I'm going here. That happened in Canada with Pierre Poilievre. It felt like he was going to be in a landslide. Something happened. Something shifted. And all of a sudden, this unknown guy comes in, and he's now our prime minister. And I'm like, you're right, Patrick. I didn't vote for him. But what happened where within 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, arguably, all of a sudden, Poilievre had all the momentum in the world, and I thought it was going to be unanimous that he was going to be the PM. And then all of a sudden, Trump gets involved and says, I'm not going to deal with the conservatives. I deal only with the liberals. He single-handedly, I feel, influenced our election. Like, he didn't help us. That wasn't a helpful thing, saying, I don't want Poilievre in. I won't do business with him, but I'll do business with this guy. That's almost like political interference.
Maybe that was a misdirection.
Well, again, like
misdirection, but I think it was the media that said that, like, we're going to war.
So then you back to your people are putting X's on what the media is basically telling us to do. Like, they're not saying it directly, hey, vote for this guy, but common sense would say, if you vote for this guy, we're not going to have war. I'm like, oh, I want to use common sense. And then you mark the ballot. That happened in the US as well, where it's like, Trump seems to be the reasonable guy. He's going to end the war in Russia, Ukraine on day one, as soon as he gets in. And everybody bought it. It's not over yet. So there is puppet strings being used. The higher up you go, it goes all the way, I believe, to Satan himself. The puppet strings. Then the principalities, governments, bad actors, people that want money are willing to look the other way for a decent paycheck.
People could definitely be manipulated. That's for sure. And one thing about the American public that is, it's a shame to us as Americans, okay, is that I would say a good 70% of the American public, which encompasses those on the right and on the left, are low information voters. They don't know what the heck's going on. They just turn on the nightly news, which is basically the propaganda news. They all chirp the same song every night, and they turn on the nightly news for a half an hour a day, and they think they know what's going on in the world. And they're low information voters. They do not do their homework. you know, there's probably 10 to 15% on either side that really knows what's going on with both parties.
Yeah.
You've got some that are just committed to the Democrats because that's where their heart is. They believe that's their cause. And then you've got some really strong conservatives that are also, you know, very well educated as to the issues, but most in the mushy middle just don't know what's going on. So they are very easily manipulated where, you know, I'm not saying that, you know,
for either way.
Right, exactly. So I'm not saying, you know, I don't have enough information to say that Trump was definitely like installed this time around. But I will say, if they wanted to, it would be pretty simple to do it. I mean, they already, like a couple of election cycles ago, they were pushing, like in the Google search function, they were pushing his name to the bottom and putting Hillary Clinton's up at the top.
Yeah,
they were trying really, really hard to get Hillary in. So,
Yeah.
you know, they do these little things that we don't even notice, you know, what do they call it? Like subliminally, you know, they do this stuff.
Zuckerberg was
Right.
on trial. That's not the right word, but he had to answer for why he was squishing Trump during the Hillary campaign, and he shouldn't have been doing that, but he did. And people do this.
It goes on all the time, you know, and so, you know, I'm just saying, if there was a purpose for Trump, if you know, again, let's just, you know, if there's a deep state, if there are puppet masters, if all that is true, if they had a purpose for Trump, they could have easily swayed the voting base to you know, basically get what he got. He did get a majority popular vote this time, which, you know, seems to be a mandate for him, you know.
For sure.
But
look
you
at
know,
this. Somebody just donated.
Yes.
Look at that. $1.99.
Nice.
You know, it's interesting. I actually watched a video that didn't redacted, and this guy actually spent about 3 to 4 years as a journalist trying to find out who are the decision makers that Patrick's trying to find out. Who are they? And he went through the Skull and Bones. He went through the Illuminati. He went through the 13 Rothschild families and all the stuff, and the Chi families and all these different organizations and people. And you know what? He, after 3 to 4 years, and that's all he dug into. And after it was all said and done, he still couldn't clearly say who's in charge. He couldn't do it. The only group he did not mention were the fallen angels. I was like, the Nephilim, fallen angels. I was like, it's like that's, you can't study those guys.
If you think about Jesus' Day and keep it real simple, if you were to have a photographer that walked into the Last Supper and took a picture of all 12, I don't think he could tell you who is going to betray Jesus. I don't think so.
No.
So it has to be a layer deeper than that, where God allows certain things to happen at certain times. Otherwise, Christ wouldn't have got crucified. Like, they would have just let him live to an old age and then die. But something happened where Satan entered into Judas, possessed him, and we can argue and go, well, where's free will and all this kind of stuff, but Judas didn't mind the idea of helping himself every once in a while to money, and it got to the point where even the other disciples were like, I know this guy, he's kind of a thief. And when Jesus said one of these guys is going to betray me, they all asked each other if I'm the one.
Yep. Which one?
So that should tell us that it's not going to be easy to find the they, because there is an influence that's spiritual that, man, these things can go into one person that's like, you know what? I want fame and fortune tomorrow, and I will manipulate my constituents or whatever it is. I'll tell them, man, I'll kiss babies. I'll do whatever you say. And then when they get in, they turn. And they don't do it. And you can't get them out now.
I want to say this about earlier when we were talking about, you know, being deceived. I was deceived. I will be honest with people. I really thought that things were going to be a little bit better for Christians and that Trump was actually going to go after kids. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, like, I really am pleased with what happened where these 26 kids were rescued and all that stuff. But that's 26 out of well over 400,000 children. Just the immigrants alone is like 300,000 children. They're saying that they misplaced. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm worried. You know, something I want to say to everybody is yeah, this, yeah, that. Here's this news. Here's that news. But where are the children?
Yeah.
Where are the children? And everybody that is a Christian should be screaming that question from the rooftops, because we're all going to be responsible if we don't.
You're absolutely right, Josh. Because I mean, just look at just the issue of the whole Epstein files thing, and I mean that's what that's all about, is child trafficking. And obviously Epstein is no longer with the living, apparently. You can believe whatever narrative you want about that, but he does have his associate Ghislaine Maxwell, who's currently in federal prison for child trafficking. But here's the biggest problem: they haven't released any name of anybody that she trafficked to. So how can you charge her with a crime? You're saying she trafficked children. Well, then who did she traffic them to?
Yeah.
Wow, that was a good place to pause.
No doubt, eh? No doubt.
Perfect place. He's just like, who did she traffic them to?
And I was going to ask
internet
a
just went
Bible
out for a minute, apparently.
You're back. That was the perfect timing.
See, right in the middle, right when I was dropping some truth bombs.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to answer it, but
who did she traffic them to? Who was the John Doe
They.
or John Does? They, exactly. Who
Sorry,
was it?
I'll tell you right now, there are so many high-level people involved in this trafficking stuff. There's so much I could say.
No, like I think Derek was just kind of like, why didn't she give it up or whatever? Why didn't they press her to give it up? Versus we know there are bad players and all that stuff that are actually doing this on a daily basis. Where are they? How come we're not? Why aren't they coughing them up? It's probably frankly, because they got dirt on people.
Frankly, if I were Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer right now, I'd be going to the press every single day and say, free my client. They haven't shown a single person that she trafficked children to. That's what I'd be doing as her defense. I'd say, who'd she traffic to? Where's the names? Where's the list?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's been people that have come before. Yeah, they know names.
I'll tell you something.
Victims. There's one that just died. Like a couple weeks ago.
Virginia
mysteriously died.
Yes,
she got in a car accident and then died. Her face is all bruised up.
I'll tell you, Canadians,
they know
something.
they have something, but there's some big fish out there. I think.
And we know at the end of the day, like obviously there is horrible stuff going on all over Canada and America. We're not saying that there isn't, that this isn't a concern. It's just, where do you start at the end of the day? My goodness.
It starts by getting active and exposing it when you see it and not staying quiet about it, because too many people do that. There's not enough courageous people to step up and put themselves on the line and risk it off of the kids. The kids can't help where they're at.
Well, I haven't seen.
I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you something about some names. One of the ladies that I'm talking to, Kathy O'Brien, she was a survivor of MK Ultra, and my whole documentary started about this, but just went down the rabbit trail. But she was literally taken to Mackinac Island, which is right near the border of Canada. And Pierre Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's dad, was named in assaults that took place on her as a child.
Yeah,
that's the truth of what's really going on, and everybody's involved in it. Everybody's involved in it, and that's why the Epstein list ain't out there.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about that on another episode. We're going to go deep because, the rabbit hole goes deep on that one, and nobody is innocent after a while. It's crazy. The
there
higher
are
up
innocent
you go.
people. Not everybody's in on it, but I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of people in on it.
Yeah, no, I believe you. So I think it feels like right now they are playing us a little bit. They are playing us a little bit with the idea that, again, back to Trump and the Prime Minister of Israel, they were making it look like they weren't getting along. And all of a sudden, the PM is like, bravo, Trump. Bravo. Like, good job. You did exactly what you said you're going to do. And we've been planning this out for weeks, probably months. I would argue months, because it's not easy to get these B-2 bombers up and ready to go and all this kind of stuff. Like, these things fly, like, I forget what it was, like 11,000 miles or something weird without refueling. Like, this is unprecedented. Like, you couldn't do this 30 years ago. You had to do the Doolittle raid on a carrier, get within 200 miles of Japan, and it's like, oh, a patrol boat saw us. Okay, we only got 2 hours. Let's go. And then they'd have to ditch in Manchuria or wherever, someplace. Not easy, man. But today, especially with, like I was saying earlier, the 666, the the 6th generation B-21 Raiders that are coming out. They have the potential to be unmanned as well. So imagine you can detect these B-2 bombers right now. It's very difficult. Probably Russia could detect them, maybe Israel could detect them, maybe. But with the B-21s Raiders, you can't do that. You won't be able to detect them. It'll be too late. So imagine you're one of those countries that's death to America. Well, you're erased the next day. I wouldn't want to be in Damascus saying death to America, because now you're fulfilling some scripture there as well. And you're erased from existence.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're at right now.
And let's not forget, they have that the original king that was installed back in 1979. His son's coming back to take over Iran. Okay.
Yeah.
And the thing is, look, let's be frank here. We had the tribulation coming, and there is 10 kings. It's kingdoms. Okay.
Yes.
It's no longer these religious quagmires like Iran's been, with Muslims in charge, with the Al-Khamenei and all that stuff like that.
Kings without a kingdom, though, like they're treated like kings, but they don't have any territory.
Well, the thing is, you have the Al-Khamenei. They're going to take him out because, look, you have a false prophet that's coming, and you have the Antichrist. You're not going to have two world spiritual leaders. There's only one.
Right. Only
that's
one.
why this guy, this Al-Khamenei, he's about to go pretty soon, and he's going to be gone. And they're not going to get some other guy in charge now. Because, well, look what happened to the last guy. And plus, we got this other king coming in, and right now Iran is torn in half. I mean, actually, most of the people don't want Islam in the country. They can't stand it. Nobody wants it anywhere, actually. Okay. So they're kicking that out of their country now. This king is coming back. King of Shah. What was his name again? I can't think of his name.
Well, he's a Shah, but it's his son, right?
His son,
because the father has died, or they killed him, or they exiled him, and now
who's they, Patrick? No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Who killed him? Who killed him?
Well, the Iranians. They killed him when the Islamic terrorists they killed him because he was a little bit too Western,
leaning too much.
Well, we set up the Shah originally, and that's why the Iranian people, they kind of revolted. My opinion, very honestly, like this son of the Shah or whoever he is, hey, live a good life, whatever. But my opinion is, go in there, do your business, do whatever needs to be done, and then leave them alone and let them figure out who they want to rule that, because we get involved in setting up their leaders and it always makes a mess. It always winds up in resentment. People don't like us. It's like, hey, why'd you pick our king? Why'd you let us pick our own guy? It's like we seem to always get muddied up in that, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it makes sense though, because Israel has a great invested interest who runs Iran. So we have to get involved.
Well, they were buddies.
Israel.
They were buddies until 1979. They traded. They brought they let the Iranians come to Israel for the doctors to train them. They were best friends until 1979. Yeah. So I don't know what happened. Well, obviously the Islamic terrorists, man. It's like.
That's happened. So that's been in place since 1979. So that's like 45 years of death and destruction there. And like I said, they're getting rid of the whole idea of the spiritual leader because there's a new spiritual leader coming on the scene, the false prophet. You can't have two spiritual leaders on the planet leading the Muslims, especially. Okay. So I think that's another thing to consider. They're getting rid of that guy, the Al-Khamenei, getting rid of that dude, bringing in a king or setting up some type of king. They got 10 kings coming here.
They don't need a spiritual leader. They need an economist. That's what they need. That's all they need. No spiritual leader, just an economist. Someone that can run the show there. Maybe our prime minister, he can go there. He's an economist.
He is.
Bank of London.
Here's what's kind of amazing, though, from this whole scenario, and I don't know if you guys touched on this before I came on earlier, but have you really thought about the implications of, Iran no longer having any nuclear capability, being totally destroyed? Regime change where there's no longer the radical Muslims there. Hamas is pretty much destroyed. They're going to have to sort that whole thing out. So you're literally seeing the conditions develop for peace and safety, and then also the conditions develop for Israel living securely where the Gog-Magog war could happen in the future. I mean, everything
I
is
was
just
gonna
set up
ask
so
you
perfectly.
about that, Derek. I was going to ask you about that, and I was going to ask Shane if I could hijack his show for 3 minutes to ask you a question about that. Because
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so here it is. So Gog and Magog, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we know that. So I'm not a philosopher or a person that reads the Bible very often, whatever. Okay, so is this true? Like what I've kind of read and listened is, so all these, there's like 6 nations that come against Israel. Now, one of them is really close and they're going to take Israel down. But what happens, I believe, is their guns misfire for some reason and they kind of just blow up in their faces. And then there's 5 other nations that are there beside them, and they're like, what the heck? And then they shoot each other. Is that true? And then after that, there's 1,000 years of peace? Like, am
I don't know if it's as specific as that. I can't. I couldn't, pinpoint in the Bible and say yes. There's a prophecy that specifically outlines it exactly the way that you just said it. But in a general sense, yes. I mean, there's been many times in the past that God has fought battles for Israel where Israel's enemies will turn their swords on each other, kill each other. They get into confusion, and there's a great slaughter that they kill each other. Sometimes they just hear an angel, sound of an angel, and they turn on each other. So the principle is definitely true. And Gog Magog is an interesting thing because some people place it at the beginning before the millennium. Some people place it at the end. I think, truth be told, I think there's actually 2 wars of Gog and Magog described in the Bible, and one probably happens before and one probably happens after.
I think Gog is a chief demon.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why he's in the Millennial Kingdom as well, like Gog and Magog, and then it's like a lot of people think Gog and Magog is like Russia, and it's actually not. It's Rosh. Rosh is
right.
Russia.
That's too simple. That's too basic.
Well, and it could be, but what Josh is saying is true. Whether it's, some people will argue over whether this is Russia, whether this is Turkey. It's clearly nations from the north of Israel, which would include Russia, which would include
southern
Turkey.
Parts of Russia. The southern parts of Russia.
Right. So there's clearly the possibility of each, but overall, it's the demon. It's just like when Daniel was praying and the angel came and said he was wrestling with the prince of Persia. There are demonic influencers and principalities and powers that influence certain regions of the world, certain countries of the world. So whoever this Gog is, he could be Russia, he could be Turkey, he could be any one of that conglomeration from up there. And we probably just won't know until the time comes. But I think that the stage is being set for it for sure. Is this it? No, this isn't it. We talked about this a few days ago on my channel too. And as far as like these wars, we don't know what we're going to see before the rapture. I think it's possible that we could see the Psalms 83 war before the rapture. That's a possibility. What about, the Gog Magog? I don't think that comes before the rapture. And the reason why is because it clearly states that, wherever you place it, whether you place it before the 1,000 years or after, or like I said, in my interpretation, I think there's actually 2 unique occurrences of it. There's the prior to, and then there's the repeat of at the end. But in any case, the one that Ezekiel is describing, which I believe is prior to the millennial reign, it says that God's anger literally rises up in his face over what they're doing to Israel, and that he himself provides a deliverance so great that like there's no doubt that like all the nations of the world, everybody knows, like there won't be any atheists in that day. Everybody knows, there's a God. Okay. So, and I don't see that happening before the rapture. To me, God's keeping quiet. He's staying on the down low for right now. It's just like Jesus said to Thomas, because you've seen me, you believe. Blessed are those who haven't seen and have yet believed. And so he's going to stay on the down low until the rapture happens. And then everything supernatural is going to break loose. Then you're going to see those 7 seals open. You'll see God. Me personally, and this just again, I wouldn't fight anybody over this. I think Gog Magog, the very first iteration of that, I think it comes when that second seal is broken, the Red Horse of War, which may be World War III, and it also may include Gog and Magog. Again, just a personal take.
Definitely 2 wars going on, one before and one after. The Armageddon War, obviously that's before, and that's because of the Antichrist and the false prophet. And we see them get punted into the lake of fire pretty clearly in the book of Revelation. what gets a little bit blurry, but I'm with you on the side of the Gog and Magog war. Kind of feels a little bit more after the millennium, only because there's a group of people that are outside of Israel that are looking at these group of people that are coming, saying, why are you attacking now when everyone's at peace? Why now? Look at it. It's luscious. Like everything is beautiful. Why are you attacking now? And when they came to attack, fire came down from heaven and smoked them. It was a smoke show. There was no battling back and forth and all this kind of stuff. It was a smoke show. And then Israel went out and started using all this, removing, I guess, the burnt equipment, whatever it was, for like 7 months. And then they had burials. And then afterwards, they had people coming in that were called passengers that were coming to Jerusalem to basically give tribute. And they're like, there's a body over there that's just sticking out. There's an arm somewhere. So they put a flag there. And then they hired another group of people that were called buriers. That was their trade to go and basically go out and bury these people. I think they're contaminated with something.
That's what I thought too. And to bury these people, I think they took like a big different route. Like totally, I think they dipped into Jordan or something like that too, and went around. Like
there's an area where they actually deposited all the bodies, and I'm like, that sure sounds like
maybe because they're burning them.
Kind of stuff.
Maybe it burns. I don't know the stench. I don't. Yeah, I very interesting. I like listening to you guys.
I just dropped a document that just was released.
You like us reading, Josh? My goodness, this is video. Why are you reading?
You bring the receipts. Check it out. You'll be glad you clicked on it.
I like receipts.
All right. Okay. What are we reading?
If you don't,
today?
I'm leaving the live and going and covering it on my channel. How about that?
Okay. Well, we could read as long as it's not too long of reading.
It's not.
My eyes go buggy.
1 page.
Okay, where is it?
I'll let you read it. How's that? I just displayed it right there.
This one here?
Just came out.
Okay.
Read it to him.
Oh, you want me to read it? Okay. Summary of the threat to the United States. The ongoing, this is tiny print for me. You're asking an old guy to read. Okay. The ongoing Iran conflict is causing heightened threat environment in the United States. So when was this dated? This is just today.
Just released.
Okay.
Just dropped.
Wow. Low-level cyber attacks against the U.S. They don't even waste time. Networks by pro-Iranian hacktivists, that's what they're called, not activists, hacktivists, are likely, and cyber actors affiliated with the Iranian government may conduct attacks against the U.S. networks. Yeah, all they have to do is go to the sea and attack the submarine cables. They don't even need to go into the U.S. But yeah, I go lots of stuff going on.
No, let me read it. The ongoing Iran conflict is causing a heightened threat environment in the United States. Low-level cyber attacks against U.S. networks by pro-Iranian activists are likely, and cyber actors affiliated with the Iranian government may conduct attacks against U.S. networks. Iran also has a long-standing commitment to target U.S. government officials it views as responsible for the death of an Iranian military commander killed in January 2020. The likelihood of violent extremists in the homeland independently mobilizing to violence in response to the conflict would likely increase if Iranian leadership issued a religious ruling calling for retaliatory violence against targets in the homeland. And they've already said they're going to do it. Multiple recent homeland terrorist attacks have been motivated by anti-Semitic or anti-Israeli sentiment, and the ongoing Israel-Iran conflict could contribute to U.S.-based individuals plotting additional attacks. And like I said, this is released today, just literally moments ago.
Right. And does this surprise us, or is this
but this is what I've been trying to warn people of. People keep treating me like I'm a crackpot. Oh, this can't happen before we go home.
No, I think we've all been saying that, and even the U.S. government is expecting Iran to retaliate. They're saying it. They're saying, look, we hit them. They're going to come back at us. We don't know which way. Could be this, could be that, could be this, whatever. I don't know if we'll know the full truth of how they're going to attack or whatever, but you're right. Like we're on high alert.
Well, this is when you need Joe Biden.
They are controlling.
You need Joe Biden in office to say, don't.
Yeah.
Don't.
Don't.
All right, so we're at about the 90-minute mark, which usually I like to have where we just kind of wrap up things with a nice little bow. So everybody gets kind of a final say. We'll go Patrick, let's go Derek, Josh, and then we'll end with Bob. All right, we'll just go around. Take your time. Take your time. Take your time.
I just want to thank you guys. Thank you for thanks for visiting with me. I enjoy you guys, and Josh, you're a good man. And Derek, it's always nice seeing you. I think I've seen you about 4 times now.
Yep, you as well, brother. It's good to see you.
And I really appreciate you guys. You guys really dig deep, and yeah, it's good. It's always good to catch up with you, Shane. And we'll see you soon. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you guys know, but Patrick goes to the same church as me.
Yes.
So that's why he's on. Yeah.
There you
we
go.
know we've known each other for a few years. He's got some good insights. So, okay. So thanks, Patrick, for that. Derek.
All right. Well, like I said, I just kind of came on late because I've been working all day. You can see my background. That's where I was working today, raking hay. It's beautiful weather out here. So, getting some work done. I actually shared a couple screenshots with you. I'm going to close with a little comedic content here. So
okay,
go ahead and show one and then show the other. And I'll tell you what you're looking at.
Are you getting me to read too?
I can read them for you if you bring them up. So, so this one, I think you can read this one. It just says "Suck it, USA," and then an American flag. And then if you read the next one, it'll explain what you're looking at.
Okay.
All right. So the next one, it says news messages and statements from Imam. It says, what did it say? There it is. Khomeini's DM is open. Please send your messages. So somebody wrote, "Hey man, how does it feel to be denuclearized? Hey bro, please answer." So apparently you could send messages directly to the Ayatollah Khamenei through his DM on Twitter or whatever. So apparently you can. So you can, you guys up in Canada, you might send them something like, say, "Hey, I was really respecting. I was thinking of joining up with Iran, but I think I'll stick with my buddy America. You guys suck," or something like that. I don't know. You can troll them if you want. That was just a little bit of comedy. All I'll close on is just this final thought for those of you guys out there that again, if you're on the fence, if you're just wow, this news is crazy. I was thinking about it today. There's 2 types of people. There's the O's, and then there's the that's. And you want to be the that's and not the O's. The O's are
the days.
You want to be the O's are what's next, right?
Mm-hmm.
They watch the news and it's like, oh, what's next? Like something bad happened. Oh, what's next? You don't want to be the O's. You want to be the that's. The that's are the people that know their Bible that say, that's what's next. That's what's next. We've seen this all along. This is no surprise to any of us. So don't be an O, be a that's. You want to be a that. So
that's good.
It's coming very soon, guys. Just be ready.
All right. And Josh?
Thanks for having me on, and I appreciate everybody that's put up with me up to this point. And I just say a prayer for everybody real quick. Dear Jesus,
sure.
Father, I just ask you to bless everybody, Lord. I just pray your spirit be with them. Protect your people in the days ahead, Lord. And we just ask you to give us the strength to continue moving towards the finish line. And we know that we're right there, Lord. And we just pray for you to encourage us, Lord, and lift us up and bless us and help us to feel your presence, Lord, throughout our day, throughout our lives. And we pray protection over our families and especially the children, Lord. And we just ask you, God, to just protect Israel and watch over them and keep them safe. We pray for their salvation, Lord. And we just pray for those who are lost that don't know you, Jesus. Bring them in by the droves, Lord. We pray for revival and a quick revival, Lord, because we know the rapture is right around the corner. But we just thank you for your sacrifice, Jesus, and we just thank you for your atoning blood that covers our sin. And we just give you all the glory, the honor, and the praise for that. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Josh, for that. Brother Bob.
Well, pretty much to sum it up right now, we're looking at the rapture resurrection happening for a multitude of reasons. We have all the wars taking place. We have these terror cells now being activated, followed by Iran. Okay, you have the fall of the American dollar, cryptocurrencies coming in, earthquakes, threats of nuclear wars. UFOs have been quiet for a while, but I'm sure that's coming back in because they went quiet for a while. Okay, but I'm sure they're going to make the back when volcanic activity, the Mississippi riverbeds cracking all the way up the middle. All right. And I mean, I could just go on and on and on. All right. But what we should be hopeful for is a lot of people are in fear because when you talk about these terror assaults, people get scared. Okay. Like I said, I think this is only meant for like high populated areas. Look, if you're going to be a suicide bomber, like I said, you're not going to blow yourself up in the middle of a quiet street. Okay, you're going to try to get into a big crowd, and they think they're rewarded for the amount of people that they can kill on the way out. So trust me, they're not going to be blowing themselves up in the middle of an empty parking lot. They're going to go into huge crowds. So be careful about that stuff going forward. All right, try to avoid stuff like that. All right, but Jesus told us that at his return, it'll be like the days of Noah, and yes, there was a lot of evil and violent parts on the earth, a lot, as all over the place, but there are also places of peace. They say they were marrying, given in marriage, which means things were peaceful enough for them to do marriage ceremonies and buy food and laugh and drink and play music and not have to look over their shoulders about being overtaken with a bunch of guys with swords or whatever. Okay, so that's going on too. So that could be here for the most part here in America, I still believe. And all the stuff that we're talking about here, as bad as it can get, I really do believe majority of it, we might see a few things pop off, but not until after the rapture, because I think the hand of restraint has to be removed in order for that level of craziness and death and carnage to take place. Okay, dreams and visions here, I've been watching for a long time. It's not chaotic and people running the streets and mobs and people killing people. That doesn't happen before the rapture. It always happens after the rapture. Okay, so hopefully that helps put people at ease and make sure you believe in the finished works of Jesus Christ, his death, burial, and resurrection, right? He's the Son of God, walked the earth in the flesh, all right? He gave himself the Lamb of God who came to take away the sins of the world, pure blood, the pure blood and only sacrifice God accepts. And if you are willing to accept that gift that he did, and Mike from Reaper Man Mike 64 said it perfectly. A Galilean wedding, when the bride drinks of the cup, that's what we do. We drink of the cup. Are you willing to drink the cup? Because the cup is prepared by the groom, right? All the work. He chooses the wine, he makes the cup, he cleans the cup, gets the cup, he puts it in there. They present it. All you do is wait for it to be presented to you, and you have to be willing to have faith enough to drink this cup. When you drink this cup, you agree. You made an agreement with that when you drink that cup. All right. So that's the same manner as us. When we believe in his finished works for our salvation, we essentially drink the cup and say, I am now engaged to you, Jesus. And he leaves you the gift of his Holy Spirit, just like a Galilean wedding. He leaves you the gift, and then he leaves and comes back to take you unto himself. Okay. And that's Ephesians 1:13-14. The Holy Spirit is left to us as an earnest, as a gift of our eternal inheritance. All right. So that's our position right now. So everybody, don't get too scared about all the stuff going on right here. Watch what's going to happen this week. I think birth pains are going to be much quicker now. I think things are going to get really quick here. We're not going home quite yet. I think we got a little further to go, but I think things are going to start ramping up here really quick, though, before we get out of here. High watch for the rest of the month and all of July, especially. So,
amen.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing. And don't forget as well, Uptime Community Church is on Tuesday night at 6:30 Mountain Standard Time, so 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Derek's usually got a bunch of stuff going on during the week. Bible study with Derek, so watch his stuff. He has a really fantastic Roman series going on. Are you continuing that on Friday as well?
Yes. Yep. I'll be Romans 8 on Friday, one of the best of all.
Yeah. No, that's pretty cool. I watched your last one. That was great. And then also Josh is working on part 2 for his documentary. That's coming up. Is that going to be available tomorrow? Or are you thinking that's down the road?
It's down the road.
Took a while. Okay. So check out End Times Talk on Josh's channel. And Patrick, we got to get you a YouTube channel, bro. We got to get you on. You need your own YouTube channel. It could be, it's Patrick or something.
I don't have much to say. I listen. And
you listen?
I'm a good listener.
You're humble, man. You're humble.
That
Thank
you are.
you, sir.
So yeah, thanks guys. And then I'm sure Bob, you're going to be more reports coming down the pipes as well. Anything significant coming up this week with your channel?
Would like to be able to start the Dream and Vision Watch series. So,
Okay.
That's why I'm hoping to get started this week. So, we got a lot of work to do with that. Still kind of watching the content that's coming in and revealing stuff to make sure it's. I just don't want to throw stuff out there. It has to really come together. So we'll let the Holy Spirit take care of that. So,
okay, cool. Well, thank you guys. And then, of course, tonight, in a few hours, what are we at here? What time is it right now? My time. Looking at 5. So in about 3 hours, Trump is going to be doing his little press conference. I think it's 10 p.m. Eastern time tonight. So that'll be interesting. Check it out as well. Not that I'm endorsing Trump or not endorsing, but it'll be interesting for sure.
You endorser?
Endorser. All right. Thanks, guys, for being here. Stick around in the back, and I'll just go out with this video here. Bye for now.
Everybody.
Black Swan Revelations here on YouTube brought you today's mind-bending journey. Dive into the discussion, your comments, questions, prayer requests, and powerful testimonies of Jesus' love are what fuel this community. Did today's episode hit home? Smash that like button. New here? Subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a live stream or a video upload. Thanks for being part of today's adventure. Catch you in the next video, or maybe even in the clouds. Stay curious, stay blessed.